A very good evening to you. If I get distracted, it's because I'm looking at the score between the Man United and Leeds game, and Leeds United are 2-0 up. What a time for Man United to be all in turmoil. And apparently, according to the reports here, that they are actually, they're like playing the game like they're headless chickens. And what a time for Leeds United to be really pushing it and showing that they want to continue to be part of the Premier League next season. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the West Ham Voice. It's been the West Ham Weekly. It's been something like, I don't know, nearly a month since I did the last show. I've been away. I think that during the international break, I was away, and then one or two things happened. Then, of course, I couldn't make it on a Monday. So welcome back. I hope you're all good. And thank you for following me on the other shows I've been doing, the short shows that I've been doing throughout the last few weeks, the morning shows. And a big thank you, of course, to everyone that's become a subscriber of the channel. This morning, I woke up to the news that I'd reached 10,000 subscribers, and I'm really chuffed. I thank everybody that's become a subscriber of the channel. I thank everyone that's been part of the show, all my mates that sort of get involved, post-match reviews and all that sort of stuff, all the people that say hello to me, I bump into, and of course, everyone that sits and watches this show and makes comment, because your comments are important, because that's what makes the show, as I keep saying. So thank you. Thank you for helping me to reach 10,000 subscribers. Really appreciate it. So what are we going to talk about today? If I don't get too distracted in the game going on with Man United and Leeds, talking all about relegation, of course. And relegation is the thing that we're all focused on at the moment, aren't we? The relegation battle and what clubs are currently in form, because there are one or two clubs down there, and ourselves are included, in we're doing all right. We're out of the relegation zone at the moment, which is good, but we've got a long way to go. We've still got 6 games to go in this season in order to sort of keep ourselves away, save our season, basically. And it's a season where relegation will almost certainly be concluded, very likely, right at the end of the season. I don't want to take it to the last game, especially with the way Leeds United are playing at the moment. I don't want to take it to the last game of the season to have to win that game to stay up. But it's very possible that that's the way the season could go. And what we need to do between now and the game against Leeds United is to create a cushion for ourselves. We need to do, we need to get a few more points on the board in order to, when we go into that final game of the season, we've got a little bit of a gap between ourselves and the relegation zone, so that the Leeds game shouldn't matter. We don't want to go into that Leeds game at the end of the season and have to beat Leeds in order to stay up. And I'm seeing the commentary that's going on, and basically Leeds are kind of all over Man United at the moment. Look, we've got Leeds currently playing away, 2-0 away to Man United, and in a way, and I'm sorry to say this, Leeds fans, because I know one or two of you probably won't be watching tonight, but I know one or two Leeds fans will watch the channel. We need Leeds United to stay in the relegation fight. If they win tonight, then I think they're going to be thinking, well, they're almost out of it. That'll take them to 36 points, and they'll probably be thinking, we're okay, just another win, and we're done, we're fine. But we need them to stay in the relegation battle for ourselves. Forest would need them to do so, and Spurs will need them to do so as well. But Man United have got an incentive, and I know, it's only not even half time in the Man U Leeds game, but Man United have got an incentive to try and get a positive result tonight, because, of course, they want to secure their place near the top of the league, top of the Premier League, and to secure a status in the Champions League next season. So they've got a vested interest to get back into this game. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. At the moment, though, Leeds are well deserved with their 2-0 result at this moment in time. Look, Our emphatic win against Wolves on Friday night took us out of the relegation zone. And now, in a way, our fate is in our own hands. We've been in the bottom three for most of the season. I'm not gonna laugh at Tottenham Hotspur just yet. I'm not gonna mock them just yet, because we've been in the bottom three for most of the season. They've only just dropped down into the bottom three. They could win on at the weekend against Brighton, which would send us back down into the bottom three. So that's why I'm holding my composure at the moment. I'm holding my nerve, because Roberto De Zerbi, the new Spurs manager, has got an incentive. He wants to go and win against his former club, and he wants to do it with aplomb. So I'm sort of keeping my resolve on that. I don't want to start mocking Tottenham Hotspur, not until we're dead sure they're going down, because if they win at the weekend, and I know their form, and I'm going to get into every team's form in a moment, but I know their form doesn't suggest that they will. But if they win at the weekend, then we're back down in the bottom three. Look, when you look at Brighton and how they approached their game at the weekend, and against Burnley, and the way they Burnley were a bit unlucky, but Brighton are a good solid team, and the way they played against Burnley, and then when you look at the way Tottenham Hotspur played against Sunderland, worlds apart. There's a team that's not in form at all in Tottenham Hotspur, and there's a team in Brighton who's pushing for they're pushing for a place in Europe. So Brighton have got a lot to play for, but Tottenham Hotspur, I guess, are praying for their lives in order to get a decent result to get out of the bottom three. But that's going to be an interesting game. We're going to be on tenterhooks with that. We're going to be worried about what that result is going to bring us. But we've just got to go out and do our own thing, haven't we? At the next Monday night against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace did exceptionally well against Newcastle on Sunday. They went 1-0 down, and then they came back into that game, and they did really well too. You could see that Palace are a team that's got a little bit of form about them at the moment. A 2-1 win. Jean-Philippe Mateta did extremely well. And they're one of the teams that we've got to be careful of, because Palace are not going to be easy away from home. But at the same time, we're going to be keeping an eye, aren't we, on the Tottenham Hotspur Brighton game at the weekend to see how that goes. When you look at the form of teams in the last 10 games, you could see West Ham United are on par with Crystal Palace. We're doing okay in terms of our league form. We're doing pretty well. We're holding our own. We've won 4 of our last 10 games. We've drawn 3. We've lost 3. Crystal Palace are marginally behind us in the last 10 games. They've won 4 as well, but they've only drawn 2 and they've lost 4. So we're on even. We're on par. And when you look at the teams in the top half who have done well in the last 10 games in the Premier League, West Ham United are up there. We're behind the likes of Brighton. I've just mentioned Brighton, who are going to play Tottenham Hotspur, but there's Bournemouth up there, Arsenal, Man City, Man United, etc. So there's a lot of teams that we're sort of in good company with in terms of how we're doing in the last 10 games of the season. So I'm confident in that respect that we're not going to go to Crystal Palace at the weekend and think that we're going to be, done for. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a decent game, but I think we're going to give them a game. If we walk away with a draw, I won't be too disappointed. But they're capable of beating us, but we are capable of beating them too. Then when you look at the bottom half of the league in the last 10 games, you can see Tottenham Hotspur right down there, no wins, 3 draws and 7 defeats in the last 10 games in the Premier League. And then they're in company of teams who look like relegation fodder, Wolverhampton Wanderers and Burnley. In fact, Wolves, as you can see, are doing a lot better than Newcastle, for example. But Leeds, if they win tonight, they're going to elevate themselves. They're going to rise up. And but look at the other teams down there. The teams that are struggling with relegation battle: Nottingham Forest, Leeds, Wolves, Burnley, and Tottenham Hotspur are all there for a reason. We're not there. We're above. In the last 10 games, look at us rising. And it's interesting. It was interesting before the game on Friday against Wolves that a lot of fans were saying we're not going to win it. We're not going to do well, etc. We're going to suffer against Wolves, and look at the past results against them. And the way we started off sluggish, and that wasn't good. But the way we went about our game after we scored the first goal, and we kind of took Wolverhampton Wanderers to the sword, really. And when I look at other teams down there, Forest, they can get a win, they can get a draw, they can get a defeat. Tottenham Hotspur just can't buy a win at the moment, and Leeds are actually doing well at the moment. Now, Leeds, if they win this game tonight, I think, one more game and they're probably safe, and then it'll be down to Nottingham Forest, West Ham and Tottenham Hotspur for that final relegation place. And it's Tottenham Hotspur that have got to be really worried. Their form is pretty poor. And then we thought about Roberto De Zerbi. Everyone was saying, they're going to get new manager bounce and he's going to... But then a lot of people said that about Igor Tudor, that Tottenham Hotspur were going to get a new manager bounce there. But that hasn't happened. And now they've got Roberto De Zerbi. And I think I did a show last week where I suggested that De Zerbi takes a little bit of time to get going at a club. And his win ratio would suggest... at Marseille, his win ratio when he was at in the Premier League last time would suggest that he's only likely to get 2 wins for Tottenham Hotspur and maybe 2 draws, which ain't going to be enough for them. But I'm not worried about them. Are you? It's all about West Ham. And it's when you look at the league form at this moment in time, when you look at the teams down there, Tottenham are in real trouble. In the last 10 games, no wins. Burnley have only had 1 win. Wolverhampton Wanderers, only 2 wins in the last 10 games. If Leeds United win tonight, they have 3 wins and they elevate themselves a little bit. But when you compare that to the last 10 games in league form for West Ham United, we're looking like a team that is pushing for Europe, let alone trying to get ourselves out of relegation. I'm not jumping ahead of myself. I know there's still a long way to go, but the form suggests that we are one of the few teams down there when it comes to Leeds, Spurs, Nottingham Forest. We're the team that's likely to get ourselves out of this relegation problem that we're in at the moment. I don't know. Tell me what you think. I'm going to look at your comments in just a moment. But I think it's going to be an interesting last 6 games of the season. Tottenham Hotspur must be very, very worried about their predicament. But we've got to go to Crystal Palace next Monday night. I guess one of the good things is we'll see the whole weekend pan out. We're going to see the games played on Saturday and Sunday, and then we know what we need to do against Crystal Palace next Monday night. We've got to win regardless, but a draw would not be a disaster. But a win would be a massive boost for us. Let's go into your comments. Let's see who's in the chat tonight. Good evening to you, Ryan. I hope you're well, mates. Congratulations, Peter, member for 7 months. Oh, fantastic. Thank you, guys, for being members of the channel as well. Stephen, had a nice holiday, had a great Easter. It was the Orthodox Easter this weekend. So today is I think the Catholics celebrate it last week, but the Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, the Orthodox Church celebrates it this week. So it's our Easter today. So thank you for that. Daniela, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Good evening to you too, Harry. I hope you're well. Yeah, he messaged me. Thank you for that, Harry. He sent me a message on Twitter earlier this evening. So I said I do usually do Friday night shows with guests. So maybe we can arrange something. Graham, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Who else we got here? Good evening to you, Randy. How are you, mate? A very good week. A much better week, especially a great weekend with the win that we had. I'm going to go talk about the game very briefly in a moment. Randy, Leeds 1-0 with Okafor against Man U. Not ideal result for us, but well, it has changed because they're 2-0 up now. Yuha, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Randy again. In terms of what's better for West Ham, is the director of football model for the long term, but from the board's view, do I think they will let Nuno have control? If we say, well, I was actually going to talk about. I took it out of the agenda because I thought I had enough to talk about. But there was a story earlier today, wasn't there, about the director of football model, and then if we stay up, that Sullivan is going to allow Nuno to control the transfer. So which is it? Because we heard Baroness Brady talk about going back to the director of football model, even if we get relegated, so that sounded like that will happen pretty imminently. And yet, by the story that came out today, it suggests that we're going to allow Nuno to control transfers. Look, you're torn. You're between a rock and a hard place here. For the long term, a director of football is a much better approach to take, because it creates a consistency. It creates a much better consistency for the team. So whatever manager comes in, whatever coach comes in, you've got a consistent team. You've got a consistent squad, and all the coach has to do is come in and just manage that squad. When a manager comes in, what we've had in the past, and what we've realised in the past is, we've had it under David Moyes, we had it a little bit under Potter and Lopetegui, and in a way a little bit from Nuno now. When a new manager comes in, they want to stamp their authority, they want a team. So when Potter came in, he completely discarded everything that Moyes had. Moyes did that before. He completely discarded everything he had available to him, created his own squad. Great, whilst the manager is there. If that manager is there for the long term, then that's fine. But what manager stays in a job these days for more than 2, 3, 4 years? So that when that manager goes, then the next manager is going to come in with different ideas, different philosophies, and he's going to want to create a new squad in his own guise. And that's what Potter tried to do. Lopetegui tried to do that as well. And Nuno has kind of begun to do that. If you remember, in the January transfer window, Nuno talked about having to rebalance the squad. What Nuno was really saying was, I'm going to get rid of all the players I don't want, bring in the players that I want, and I'm going to form a team that's in my guise. Fantastic, because if it does well, if it works, that's great. But what happens if Nuno goes in, say, I don't know, a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, when his contract expires? What then? We get another manager in, and then that manager goes, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a whole new squad under my own guise again. So I get the director of football. The director of football makes an awful lot more sense, because you've got a consistency there. And then all you've got to do is you bring in a manager or a coach that's going to build to buy into the philosophy that the club has created under the director of football. So it makes sense for the long term. But we're short-termism, especially in the Premier League, especially West Ham United. And even when we do try to get a director of football or another person under that name, Tim Steidten kind of role, etc., we don't allow it to work. Why? Because we've got the other problem. Because David Sullivan thinks he's a fantastic scout, a fantastic recruiter of footballers, and he can't help himself but get involved in the transfer business. So even if we brought a director of football in, he needs autonomy, full autonomy. Otherwise, it's never going to work. And that's been the problem with West Ham United, because we never allow anything to work for too long. We tried the Tim Steidten approach. As soon as that started to go a little bit wrong, out he goes. Am I suggesting that Steidten should have stayed? No, I'm not suggesting that at all. But you need longevity in a director of football. You need to give that director of football a project. Do you remember when Steidten came in, he said this is a 5-year project? He lasted, a year and a bit. That was it. He lasted barely more than a year and a bit. And a proper director of football model will mean that you've got to allow that manager, that director of football, to see it through, to build. The concept works really, really well abroad. In teams in Europe, the concept works really, really well, and in some of the bigger teams that we've got here in the Premier League. But for some reason, teams like West Ham United, mid-table teams, or teams like us this season, languishing near the bottom of the league, you don't have that time, you don't have that luxury. That's the difference. That's the big difference. And owners and managers, etc., in a club knee-jerk. They knee-jerk to what's going on, rather than going long-term project. Let's make sure it works. And this is what we don't do. Especially, we're not the only ones. West Ham United are not the only ones, but it's much, much more prominent for us, isn't it? Sorry, long answer to a very short question there. Good evening, Mark. I hope you're well. Yuha? Next season would be so relaxing if we could always play on a Friday night and win all our games. It was so much fun to have a relaxing weekend. That's a really good point. Good evening to you, David. I hope you're well. Bonjour to you, Pete. I hope you're well, mate. Let's get some more comments in. Josh, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Randy again. Ryan, what did Ryan say? Ryan said, thanks, Randy. Unfortunately, not every result will go for us, as again, it's still early. But as far as we're concerned, as long as we get the points, then we should be okay. Well, it's in our hands now. We've just got to carry on winning. Didn't expect this from Leeds. Hammer it. I don't think any of us did. Good evening to you. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Frog. I hope you're well, mate. Sweet FA, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I'd rather Leeds be safe on the last day, not fighting for their safety. That's a good point. Yeah. So I guess we should be welcoming the current result that it's 2-0. It's half time there now. Let me give you some stats in that game. Leeds had 5 shots to Man United's 2 on target, that is. Touches in the opposition box, 22 touches in the opposition box for Leeds United with 10 for Man United. Man United have got the better of the possession, 55% possession. So there you go. It's going to be really, good point. Good point, actually. If Leeds are safe by the end of the season, then will they try? Well, that relaxes them. You see, there's a counter argument to that. That'll relax them. They'll play their game. The last thing we want is for them to stuff us. Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. Thank you to all who have become subscribers of the channel. Jace, good evening, mate. If we can't finish above Spurs, we deserve to go down. That's very true indeed. Very true. Who else have we got? Hammer, I loved our performance. That second half showed so much passion. Every single player turned up. Absolutely. Mark, what an evening we had on Friday. Brilliant from West Ham. It's so good to hear these positive comments about West Ham because we did play well. It took us 30-odd minutes to do so, but once we got that goal, we calmed down and we played our game. Sweet FA, this weekend is going to be crucial for everyone down there. We absolutely must get something ourselves. Absolutely. Look, it's not going to be a disaster if I don't want to say this because it sounds like I'll be happy for it. I don't care if we don't. It won't be a disaster if we lose because Crystal Palace are a pretty good team. But to get a draw, I think will be great. To get a win would be absolutely fantastic. Steve, good evening to you. Thank you very much, mate. Always thank you so much. Sean, good evening, mate. Thank you very much, mate. Surely you treat yourself to a rare holiday, or a rare one. We're going away. Well, we've only just come back, but going away in May again to Cyprus. Cyprus, by the way, if anyone's thinking of going there, don't listen to all the codswallop. There's nothing going on out there. The country's not in jeopardy because of what's going on in Iran, etc. Everything is really peaceful. I was out there for a whole week and I didn't get bombed, so I'm sure you will be all right. And we're going back out there for 2 weeks in May, and I'm sure it'll be all right there. There you go. A little plug for going on holiday to Cyprus. Daniela, Palace may be 3-0 up but English team don't do well in Italy. Oh, this is the they play Fiorentina, don't they, on Thursday? And Fiorentina, well, I kind of suggested that maybe Crystal Palace might put out a weaker team against Fiorentina and rest a lot of their players for our game on Monday night. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens. Who else have we got here? Gaza, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Man United ain't played for 26 days and it's showing. Carrick has mucked this up with his team. I'm sure they're going to come out firing in the second half. I don't know what I want now because the comment that was made about, if Leeds United are safe by the time they play us might bode well for us. I didn't even think of that, but that's a really good point. Now I don't know who I want to win tonight. Mark, if we can increase the gap to Spurs and if Spurs continue to lose, we could have a 5-point gap on them and then the pressure increases for them, but we still need favours if possible. Look, if we increase, if Spurs don't, Brighton are a good team. Let me go back to that those stats that I showed you a moment ago because Brighton, let's have a look at Brighton. There they are. They're in the last 10 games, they're fifth. Having won 5, drawn 1 and lost 4. Brighton, they're doing reasonably. Isn't it interesting? They've got the same number of the same sort of stats as Liverpool, and everyone thinks Liverpool in the last 10 games and everyone thinks Liverpool's having an awful season, but Brighton is having a great season. Isn't it weird that? But anyway, look, Brighton, they are right up there. They're going to be really, really confident. And then you look at the last 10 games, the teams in the last 10 games, Tottenham Hotspur right down the bottom, no wins. In fact, their last league win was on the end of December. I can't remember who they beat. They beat someone 1-0, but that was their last league win. They haven't won this calendar year. If Brighton do the business on them at the weekend, and then we go into the game against Crystal Palace and get ourselves a point, which will take us 3 clear of them, or 3 points, which will take us 5 clear of them. That would be interesting, won't it? Brighton have won 5 of their last 6. There you go, Mark. Thank you for that. Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Mark, the other teams have easier games this week. We have to keep the pedal to the metal. Yeah. Well, have they, though? Has Tottenham got an easier game against Brighton? I wouldn't have said so, to be honest with you. Leon, good evening, mate. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. Who else we got? Randy again. That's all we can do. If we beat Palace, then that's 5 points clear of the Spuds. If they lose to Brighton, could be a massive boost for us going forward. But of course, there could still be twists. I think there are going to be loads of twists. Be prepared for them. And what I really, really hope is that if we lose one of our games coming up, whether it be a game, whoever it may be against, if we lose, I just hope the fan base doesn't go into meltdown and doom and gloom again, because it's going to be there will be twists and turns. There will be sort of teams around us winning games, ourselves maybe losing games, and so on. But we've just got to keep our nerve, because the 6th game, I mean, look at the beginning of January. There was no chance for West Ham United to stay in the Premier League. We were pretty much doomed. Even I was suggesting that we were done for. But look how it's turned around over the past couple of months. I think it's been fantastic for us, and we're on the up. We really are. But don't lose it if we lose a game. I think this is more on the Manx being shite rather than Leeds being the nuts. Well, I was looking at this the commentary early on, Hammerette, and apparently Leeds could have been 1-0 up within 2 minutes, and then they went to 1-0 up within 5 minutes. They were all over Man United. But yeah, fair enough. They've not been great either. Man United. Daniela, I have to say, did not expect 4-0. Love the way this squad is together and celebrated together. Absolutely, Daniela. It's really, really good. It's good to see. And what a time for the squad to really pull together. Hammerette, don't quite understand how Pablo makes us a better side every time he's on the pitch, but he really does. Yeah, he does, because he gets in there. Do you remember when I was doing more regular shows in January, etc., and we were talking about Lucas Paqueta. Lucas Paqueta was the big deal at that time, wasn't it? The big story. And I suggested several times that I think we'd do better without him. And not because he's a bad player, but because we needed grafters in the team. And the thing about Pablo, the reason why he makes us better is because he's a grafter. And David Moyes did a similar thing when he came back twice at West Ham. He started to get grafters in. One of his first things he did was he brought Bowen in, and was that the second time round? I think it was, when he brought Bowen in and he brought Souček in a January transfer window. And Bowen's got skill, but both of them are grafters. And I think Nuno has done a similar sort of thing. He's brought grafters in. He's brought players that are going to knuckle down. And I know everyone's saying Pablo, he's a front man, a forward, etc. So he should be scoring goals. But he brings a lot more to the table, doesn't he? And why? Because he gets his foot in there. He gets stuck in. If you compare him, basically he's more or less playing the position that Paqueta kind of played, just behind the front man, that sort of thing. Who would you rather have at this moment in time? Who do you think is being more effective at this moment in time? For all the goals that Paqueta scored, and I know he scored a lot more than and he made more assists, etc. But he gave away almost as many goals as he scored. Whereas Pablo gets his foot in. He's a grafter. He plays for the team. He's a team player. And I guess that's the big difference, isn't it? The players that Nuno has got in the January transfer window has made the squad a proper setup, a proper team, playing for each other. Daniela's just said how it's great to see there's a togetherness about them. And I think Pablo is part of that. And I know a lot of people are already dissing him because he's not scored anything, etc. But I think that's what he brings. He brings a different kind of play to West Ham United. And Tati Castellanos, he doesn't go missing. Let's compare him to Nicholas Füllkrug. Who would you rather have in this lineup at this moment in time, Füllkrug or Castellanos? Because I know who I would have, because Castellanos doesn't go missing. Even though he may not be scoring as many goals as we'd like, he's getting in there. He's trying to be part of this team, and I think that's the big difference. That's the big difference that Nuno has made to this team, and it's great. Patrick, good evening to you. Sorry, still, but I think it'd be better if us leaves us safe and have one eye on the cup final when they play us on the last day. Yeah. So long as they do that, Patrick. So long as they do that, and so long as they got one eye on the cup and one eye, and being safe, and then they just give us a bye at the end of the season. But I want us to do it through our own merit. I want us to, stay in the Premier League, not because other teams are doing us a favour. But you got a good point there. Leeds playing well, nearly had the third goal against Man United. Imagine that. Imagine Man United not turning up tonight, eh? Darren, Nuno got it spot on Friday. Hopefully he realises this and doesn't make any experimental changes for the Palace game. I don't think he will. And I know a lot of people were really upset about what Nuno put out against Leeds in the FA Cup. But come on, people. When I looked at the way Somerville played on Friday night, it wasn't 100%. You could tell he wasn't 100%. And yet people wanted him to play in the game the week before against Leeds United when he wasn't 100%. Todibo, he wasn't fit. So how could he have played? And I know there's apparently this conspiracy that all of a sudden all our players were fit straight after the Leeds United game, but that's the way it works out sometimes. The only player I questioned about the Leeds game was Callum Wilson. Where was he? That was a bit weird. But all the other players that we had out, Mavros, Dinos, he had concussion or suspected concussion. He couldn't play even if he wanted to. So let's get rid of the conspiracies. Hi, Malkster, how are you, mate? Where's Noble these days? Doing his job behind the scenes, I think. Good evening to you, Epic. Epic, how are you? Steinen signed Kante for 500 grand. He did. Fair play. I think Kante is going to be an excellent player. So fair play to that. Randy, Darren. Where's your comment gone? Darren, I would like to think he won't change it unless Glasner for Palace is preparing 4-4-2. Unless we're throwing a curveball and change our formation. I think the lineup that started on Friday against Wolves is very much the lineup that's going to continue to play unless we get injuries. Todibo, unlucky not to play. Now, actually, whilst I'm on that, let's do a bit of a match review, shall we? Because where did that go? So Stebo is going to probably find it difficult to get back into this lineup whilst we have Dinos and Disasi playing the way they are. Good to see Somerville back. It was great to have him back. And what was interesting was, even though Aaron Wan-Bissaka was available, Nuno kept Carl Walker-Peters in the lineup. So I don't think that was a bad move, to be quite honest with you. And I've suggested this before, that I think Carl Walker-Peters allows Jared Bowen to play a more attacking game. Now, I like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and I think Carl Walker-Peters is a very good backup, if not a first-team player himself. So I think we've got two good right-backs, but they offer very, very different things. Now, Aaron Wan-Bissaka goes forward. He likes to get forward, etc. And I like that as well. I like the fact that he adds something to our attacking lineup. But let's be honest, let's be brutal. There are times when Aaron Wan-Bissaka goes missing in defence, and there's been problems at times when he's been caught out, ball watching, or not in the position he should be in, and that's a disadvantage. Carl Walker-Peters is more defensive-minded as a right-back, if that makes sense. Some fullbacks like to maraud forward. Other fullbacks like to defend properly. Ezra Myers, our academy player, I think is a defender first before he goes forward on the left-back side. That's the kind of gist I'm going down. Wan-Bissaka is a similar sort of thing. He's great going forward. He does some fantastic recovery tackles at times, but more often than not, when we concede a goal, and if it's coming from that side, it's usually because he's out of position, which is a shame. So I think Carl Walker-Peters gives us something different. It gives us more solid defence, if you like, and that allows Jared Bowen to maraud more forward. It gives Jared Bowen the freedom to go further forward. And we saw that on Friday night. We saw Jared Bowen carrying the ball the way he usually does, trying to beat defenders, trying to get it onto his left foot. He hit the post, a cracking shot, a cracking run and a cracking shot, because he's got the knowledge that Carl Walker-Peters is behind him. Should we lose the ball, you've got the defensive side there. So, yeah, I think it's going to be quite difficult to see a lot of change in this in the lineup. I think Kyle Walker-Peters may certainly keep his job, keep his post. Now, one thing that worries me is Malik Diouf had an awful first half on Friday night. If you're going to look for a negative, the two negatives for me on Friday, one because it took us about half an hour to get into the game, and two because I think Malik Diouf it just wasn't at the races. He kept giving the ball away. He seemed to be just a little bit behind the game a little bit, and that wasn't great. And if there's anything that can be changed, it could be on that left side. Maybe. Now, interestingly, we've seen Aaron Wan-Bissaka do really well on the left side, and I would, if you're going to make a change, my preferred option would be to go for Ezra Myers. Ezra Myers above Ollie Skulls. I think Ezra Myers just offers that bit more solid defensive approach. But if there's going to be a change, you could see maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka going in as left back and Kyle Walker-Peters retaining his place at right back. I wouldn't mind that. I think that would be all right. So look, the game on Friday was superb. The way we approached it, certainly in the second half, was fantastic. We got in there. We took them to the sword, and that's what we've got. That 4-0. Not only does it give us a morale boost, in having a clean sheet, but also the 4 goals, a massive morale boost. But also the 4 goals bringing down that goal difference. It's still the worst goal difference down at the bottom there, and we do need to start plugging away, and that 4-0 result helped to plug away at it. Right. The game itself, fantastic. I was really pleased for the likes of Castellanos to score his brace. I was really pleased to see Pablo getting that fantastic flick on to create Tati Castellanos his first goal. I think that was superb. And of course, Dinos playing in defense. I mean, I did a show at the weekend suggesting that we should never boo your own, because you just never know how things are going to pan out. And look at the way Dinos has played this season. And you've got to give credit to Axel Disasi. I'm going to talk about Disasi a little bit later on, but you've got to give credit to Disasi. Him coming in has not only improved the game, both Todibo and Dinos, they've both benefited from having Disasi alongside them. They've improved, but it's also improved the game of our goalie. Mads Hermansen looks more assured. Why? Because he's got a more solid defense, and that's got to be down to Disasi himself. Right, let's get on to some other news. And actually, let me do a few more comments, and then I'll get on to some other news. And then I'm going to talk about Axel Disasi in a bit more detail. David, I'd rather West Ham was safe on the final day and Leeds were fighting for survival. See the other side of the coin there. Agree, it's more beneficial, actually, if Leeds are safe by the time we play them. Good evening, Foxes. I hope you're well. Leeds could have been 3 or 4-0 up by half-time. They've taken them to the sword, haven't they, Man United? Leeds will draw the third last game away to Spurs, and that will keep them up and relegate front wheel skids. Hammerette, I thought, where's your comment? I thought these injuries Leeds pick up was going to be a decent thing for our relegation battle, but as soon as they come up with the answers, that's a really good point. They had a couple of bad injuries, and yet they found an answer. Well, that goes to show a squad players waiting to show what they can do. Thank you, Adam. Really appreciated, mate. Teddy Wise, good evening to you. If we stay up, I think next season could be exciting. I totally agree. We've got to get past this season first, but I totally agree with you. If we stay up, we're going to see a very, very different West Ham United side next season. West Ham, Mad Stan, good evening, mate. Happy Monday to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Ryan, I was thinking about going to Cyprus. Oh, you go there, mate, and don't blame me if any bombs come anywhere near you. Steve just went to Cyprus the week before you, and it was safe, but not as busy. People scaremongering. A lot of people are cancelling. Shame, really. Stephen, do you think Coventry in the Premier League? Do you think Coventry will win the Premier League? It's looking that way, and Millwall as well. Coventry and Millwall. Think of better places to go, but anyway. David, I was feeling pretty good after Friday night, but then I watched Tim Sherwood on Sky Sports yesterday. He sort of said that Spurs revival starts against Brighton, where he predicted a Spurs win. Good luck with that one then. Peter, I would be surprised that Palace put out a weaker side against Fiorentina. Would be risky indeed. 3-0 up. Okay, well, it's good for us if they don't put out a weak team because they put out all their big players. That means they're going to be knackered for our game on Monday night. No worries, as long as we do our thing and let the other teams worry about us. I totally agree. Sweet FA. Leeds' remaining home games are Wolves, Burnley, and Brighton. Where will they drop points? Brighton, I think. Wolves, maybe a draw, maybe not. Burnley, they'll win that one, but Brighton, they could drop points there. Daniela, still, that would be dangerous for Palace to play weakened team in the second leg. More like rest the players versus us because they're safe in the league. Yeah, interesting. Cape Town Iron. Good evening to you. Mateta looked good for Palace on Sunday. A point may be a good result. I agree. A point may be a good result, and we shouldn't sniff at that. A point away from home. Obsidian. Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Who else have we got here? I'm trying to get as many comments in as I can from different people. Love seeing Disasi and Nuno embracing afterwards. He's made such a difference. We have to sign him. Going to talk about that a little bit later on. Smokey. We will only be in trouble if we get injuries because we have a small squad. Yeah, I think we've got a decent 11. I think we've got a decent 3 or 4 after that. But then if injuries go deep, then I agree with you. We might still start facing a few problems. David, I've forgotten all about Paqueta. He's simply has not been missed. I agree. He hasn't been missed. Callum Marshall involved in 2 goals, 1 assist. Yesterday. I thought it was just the one, but going to get onto that as well later. Graham, if we can, will our next game and the Spuds lose? If we can win our next game and the Spuds lose, I believe it's game over as they will implode. I can't see them putting back 5 points. I agree with you there. David, Pablo is quality. He really started to form a partnership with Tati. Agree there. Pablo and Tati are team players. They don't just play for themselves like Pac-Man did. Spot on. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. As it started, red card. He's only just returned now, and Martinez is sent off. Martinez is looking perplexed and confused, but a hair pull results in a red card. Well, a red card. How's that going to? I mean, why do it? I've got a photo of it right in front of me. Why do it? I mean, that's game over. Why do it? He pulled what's his name's hair. I mean, violent conduct. There you go. Man United 2-0 down and a player down. Game over, I guess. Randy. Remember, Leeds were 2-0 up against us before drawing 2-2. But if Leeds continue like this the first half, then they win. Well, they're now playing against 10 players. So I think they're going to win. Jesse Lingard came on, Sean, as a 83rd minute sub for Corinthians against Palmeiras. Corinthians had 2 sent off. Lingard, got all about him. John, Casemiro is playing so badly, you probably have to sign for the Spurs. You deserve it. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate it, John. Thank you for that. Tony, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. When is Nigel back from suspension on Friday? I don't know. Every time I message him, he's busy, so I don't know is the honest answer. Evening all, Dark Star, how are you? Just seen Leeds are 2-0 up, and they got a man extra as well. Dominic, play Aaron Wan-Bissaka at left back, dropped youth. Yeah, Dominic, kind of think that to myself as well. Hammerett, can you imagine what Spuds are thinking after this weekend now watching Leeds? Well, they're in the thick of it. Mr. Levin, how are you, mate? I haven't seen you for a while. I hope all is well with you. Who else have we got? Dark Star. What's going on with Leeds? They're already safe from Spurs if they win. That's what I reckon. Yeah, good point. Jace, Spurs fixtures are really tough. I can only see them getting something at Wolves. Good point as well. Randy. Another reason is not only rivalry between Man U and Leeds, but Leeds playing more recently, I think, is an advantage compared to Man United. Have not played in a while since the international break. That can sometimes get to you. It's a really good point. It's a really good point. I agree with that. Dark Star. Leeds may well be safe already because 6 points ahead of Spurs as things stand. Spurs won't get that, will they? Patrick, my aunt had balls, should be my uncle, but she don't, so she ain't. I don't know what that's in relation to. Mark, Coventry and Ipswich more likely to earn automatic promotion. Watch out for Southampton. Yeah, they've been playing pretty well. Just seen it. Man United down to 10 men. My money's on a draw against Palace, but I think all others will win. I don't think Spurs will beat Brighton. I'll be very surprised. I'll be very, very surprised if Spurs beat Brighton, to be honest with you. James, in the last 11 games, we're fourth in the Premier League, and I've only just got out of the bottom three. Just goes to show how hard it is to get out of the basement. Yeah, really good point, that. Um, yeah, red card indeed, Mango. Daniela, to John, it's a red card in the ladies' game. Why not the men's? You could say it's assault. Yeah, it's a red card. He pulled his hair. If he pulls your hair, you're out, unfortunately. John, football really is up when well, can't do it. Can't do it, can you? You can't do it. Hammerette, Disasi has really brought the best out of Mavs. Do hope we can get him in the summer if we stay up. Let's do some other stuff. So let's start off with the academy first of all, because I haven't spoken about the academy for quite some time. Now, the women's team, there are no games. The international break is on. The under-21s, no games. Their season is over. The last game for the under-21s was when they were defeated by Spurs 3-2. And then that dropped them out of they're out of the playoffs. The Premier League 2 playoffs start soon in May, and West Ham missed out because it's only for teams between 4th and 7th, and we finished 10th. So the only other team that's playing at the moment are the under-18s, and it's not been a good few weeks for the under-18s since I last reported on them. After the 1-1 draw away to Fulham, the under-18s have fallen away quite dramatically. A 3-1 defeat to Aston Villa away, then a 2-1 defeat at home to Reading, and that was followed up at the weekend by a 4-2 chastening away to Chelsea. Their losses scuppered any hope of them finishing in the top 4. They're currently sitting 8th in the league. Now, someone mentioned about Callum Marshall on loan. We've had up to 9 players on playing on loan over the weekend. And let's start with Callum Marshall because he got an assist in the game for VfL Bochum, who moved further clear of the relegation places in the Bundesliga 2. And they returned to winning ways, winning 4-1 at home to Eintracht Braunschweig. Don't know if I got that right. Introduced in the second half with his side 2 goals up, Marshall made an immediate impact, applying a crucial touch to forward pass to set up the 3rd goal. So well done to him. He's having a good time there, but it is Bundesliga 2. So I'm not suggesting for a minute that, he's not good enough, etc. But this kind of loan gives him real confidence and boosts him for what may come next season. Who else have we got? James Ward-Prowse played the full 90 minutes in Burnley's 2-0 defeat to Brighton. George Earthy was once again a deployed. Roy Hodgson. Now, when did Roy Hodgson take over Bristol City? I'm clearly missing something. I don't know. I didn't know that. But that's what I got in front of me. This came from the West Ham official website. Roy Hodgson brought on George Earthy as a second half sub as Bristol City played out a goalless draw against QPR in the Championship. In League One, Caelan Casey featured as a late sub in Leyton Orient's 2-1 defeat at promoted Lincoln City. And Mason Terry and Ryan Battram were in action for Braintree Town as they slipped to another defeat in the National League, losing 3-1 to Forest Green Rovers. At the other end of the National League, we've got another player on loan at Boreham Wood, Josh Landers, kept pace with, played in that game in the 3-0 win over Carlisle. He was introduced as a stoppage time sub. In Italy, Nicholas Fulkrug was introduced as a halftime sub in AC Milan's 3-0 defeat to Udinese. In 16 appearances, Fulkrug has scored just the 1 goal for AC Milan in the 1-0 win, gave him the 3 points in the 1-0 win over Lecce in mid-January. Now, we've got a bit of a problem on our hands, haven't we, at the end of this season? Because there's absolutely no way on earth that AC Milan are going to want to buy Nicholas Fulkrug on a permanent basis. Best thing that can happen to him, and quite likely what will happen to Nicholas Fulkrug, well, I say we've got a problem because he'll be back to our West Ham United at the end of the season. But I think what will happen is a move to Germany will undoubtedly happen. He'll get a move back to Germany, and there's been suggestions that Tim Steiden, who's now the squad planner at FC Cologne, will want to reunite with the striker again. And let's hope he gets his man. You know damn well we're not making a penny out of any sale of Nicholas Füllkrug. He'll probably go for next to nothing. But to have him off our books and have him gone, because last thing you want, with the greatest of respect, Nicholas, is for you to come back to West Ham and then moan about how shit everything is. Well, mate, it looks like you're pretty shit because you're doing absolutely sod all at AC Milan. Finally, in terms of loans, goalkeeper Christian Hegge kept a clean sheet, excuse me, as MTK Budapest recorded a 3-0 win over, I'm going to have fun pronouncing this, a 3-0 win over Zalaegerszeg, a team in the Hungarian league. It was the Hungarian Youth International's second shutout in 3 games, which helped move his side 7 points clear of the relegation zone with just 4 matches remaining. Now, before I get onto the headline about Disasi, let's just check to see what's going on in this game against Man United. Yeah. Nothing happening. It's still 2-0, and Man United have definitely got they've lost the man. Cunha is found in between his defenders. He makes a decent hash of a difficult angle. So Cunha had a chance. Anything. This is so open, anything can happen, according to the commentary. There you go. Maybe Man United with 10 men might get into it after all. Who knows? Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Randy. Darren Loan. With an obligation to buy next season, something like 30 or 35 million, concentrate on other positions that we need in the squad. What's that regarding? Let's Darren said, hopefully if no one comes in for Disasi, we'll get him on a season-long loan. Let's hope we can buy him if we can't afford to buy him. Who else have we got? Darren again. Be good, Randy. Bearing in mind our financial situation, a loan for the season would be good. I've talked about the financial situation. I was going to try and steer clear of it. And of course, a comment comes in and makes me want to talk about the financial situation. Look, the financial situation is not good. Let's be honest. We know this. I've done several shows on the financial situation at West Ham, but it's not disastrous. And let me try and explain why. Everyone's going on about really worried we're going to have to sell our best players. We're going to have to sell Martinez. We're going to have to sell Somerville. We're going to have to sell Fernandes, etc., etc. I bet you a pound to a penny we won't. If we stay up, then I think there's every chance we'll keep Somerville and that we'll keep Fernandes as well. Why? Because Nuno will want to build a squad around those 2 players at the very least. Those are going to be their, and then you look at the likes of Mavropanos and Todibo and Disasi and players like that. He's going to want to build a squad around these players. And I bet you he'll find a way to do so without having to sell our prime players. Look, I've said it before and I'll repeat myself and you won't be happy with it, but I think the players that may go if we stay up at the end of the season could possibly be, look, Areola will go. He won't go for a lot of money, but Areola will go because he's on big wages. So a player like that will go. Thomas Souček, at the age of 30, he'll be 31, could possibly go as well. Jared Bowen might be the prized asset that we might also sell. Now, I know people will go, what, you must be mad. But, there's a logic to it. Jared will be 30 years old at the end of this calendar year. And he's been all right. He's improved. I think he's gotten back onto his game, especially against Wolves at the weekend, on Friday night. But we might cash in on him. We might have to cash in on him. I'm not suggesting for a minute that we won't sell any of our players. But if we do sell any players, I think Jared Bowen could be a player that might go. Souček might go. Areola will go. And then we've got all these players who are out on loan. We're not going to get a lot of money for them, but we've got players out on loan that will also go, that will come off the wage bill. James Ward-Prowse. Who else? Man United have just scored. And the player that's been playing shit, Casemiro, has just got it. I don't know how I feel about that. Anyway, so... yeah, there's going to, players on loan, James Ward-Prowse and players like that. And Füllkrug, again, we won't get a lot of money for these players, but they'll be off the wage bill. Now, will we cover our complete debt? No. I think quite possibly that the owners, the only other way of getting us out of this financial situation or making it easier is for the owners to inject some money into the club. And I think, there was a story earlier today about Nuno's going to be given anything he wants if we stay up, etc. And one of the things he's going to want is to keep the likes of Fernandez and the likes of Somerville. And of course, we've got young Pablo, we've got Castellanos, and he's going to want to keep Disasi as well. And then Todibo, Mavropanos, they're all in their mid-20s, these players. They're not old, they're all in their mid-20s, young players. So if that's the case, that we stay up and Sullivan is going to allow Nuno to have what he wants, then he's going to allow him to keep Somerville. He's going to allow him to keep Fernandez, and we will move on. Some players who are older, some players come into the last year of their contracts, etc. We won't like it. We won't like it if the likes of Jared Bowen goes, but I can see why it might happen. And he may not necessarily go to one of the, the Liverpool or whatever, but I can see a team like Newcastle coming in for Jared Bowen. And it will be hard. It will be a bitter pill to swallow. But if it means being able to get funds in to bring in younger players, imagine having a similar kind of player to Somerville or a younger type of Bowen on the right-hand side. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's just that my gut tells me quite possibly that that's the way we will get out of our financial predicament. So when it comes to Disasi, I think that's the way we're going to get him. Either we're going to ask to loan him out for another season, or we're going to go and try and sign him for a permanent fee. Now, Disasi is an interesting individual. I remember doing a show before the January transfer window shut where I suggested this was a deal, a loan deal that nobody wanted. It felt as if West Ham were kind of like treading through treacle trying to get it. They didn't seem to be that they weren't gung-ho for him at the beginning of the transfer window. It didn't look like Disasi wanted to come to West Ham. That's how it felt. I don't know now, but that's how it felt at the time. So it didn't look like West Ham were really that keen. It felt, if you remember, it was the last signing of the last day, I think it was, and people were suggesting it was a desperate attempt to get a player in, a defender in, because we were so poor in our defence. And it felt like it was just a makeshift thing. But it's turned out to be for the absolute better. It's turned out to be great for the player. It's turned out to be great for West Ham. And as people have suggested, to actually have him in the team has improved the likes of Dinos Mavropanos, improved the likes of Todibo, improved our goalkeeper situation as well. So it's done us the world of good. And then it's a suggestion that what's been said earlier today is that the comment is that we like him, Nuno likes him. It's down to the player himself if he wants to stay. And I think, he's got a good rapport with the French players and the French-speaking players in the squad at West Ham. He's got a great rapport with them. He knows he's going to be selected every game because he knows he's our top dog defender and he knows the impact he's brought. And I think he will be a fantastic signing. He's been a fantastic loan signing, and I wouldn't mind if we really, really can't afford him, then get him on loan with an option or with an obligation to buy him at the end of the season. Nuno wants him, the club wants him, the board seems to want him. And he had a short loan spell last season at Aston Villa, and that didn't work out, much to our benefit, because if that had worked out, Villa would have bought him, but it didn't happen for one reason or another. And he returned to Chelsea, and he was at a bit of a loss. I don't think he knew what he wanted to do. I don't think Chelsea knew what they wanted to do with him. It clearly wasn't going to be favoured in the Chelsea squad. I just saw a sign coming up, sent off. I thought someone else had been sent off, but no, that was about Martinez being sent off. Yeah, no one knew what they wanted to do with him. And I think it was a punt. I think Disasi thought, well, you know what? Better than languishing on the Chelsea bench, not even on the Chelsea benches. He wasn't even training with the senior squad. Better than that, then why not go to West Ham, And it's worked out really, really well. Everyone has benefited, and I think it's fantastic if we do get to sign him now. I don't understand why he had such a bad rep with at Chelsea. Because when I look at his stats for Monaco, they were kind of decent. They were pretty good. He spent 3 seasons at Monaco. He was a key figure in their defence. Sorry about the way that image looks. It looks a bit distorted. You know, he was a key. He played for 3 seasons. He scored 11 goals in all competitions. He scored 7 in La Liga, which is fantastic. Fantastic return for a centre back in 3 seasons. Mind you, Dinos is on what, 4 now this season or something. His aerial ability was standout feature, particularly in the 22-23 season, where he won 97 duels in the league, aerial duels. It's clear he was a vital part of the Monaco setup, and that's what made Chelsea part with 45 million euros for him. You know, 42 million pounds. There's no doubt he found it a little bit tougher when he came to the Premier League. It is a tougher league to get acclimatized to. Not every player hits the ground running. But we take a look at Disasi's stats and compare them to that of Chelsea and that of West Ham, and they're pretty similar. Ironically, his stats are maybe in some areas better when he was at Chelsea than they are at West Ham. But we look at his tackle numbers, slightly lower than West Ham, but his interceptions have increased tremendously. Maybe it's the system we play. I don't know. His pass accuracy rate has dipped a little bit, but it's still pretty good. 87%, 88% pass accuracy rate. This might be due to West Ham's more direct style of football compared to what Chelsea have that possession-based approach. They want their defenders to keep the ball as long as the midfielders do. But he remains a reliable defensive presence and continues to be a threat in set pieces, as demonstrated in the goal he scored in the FA Cup this season. Look, I like him. I wasn't sure about him, to be quite honest with you, but I like him. Now, the other problem could be is Chelsea will see pound signs, won't they? They paid for what, £42 million for him. They're going to want a large chunk of that back in some way. It won't surprise me that they might start playing silly buggers and they might start looking for other clubs to try and get a bidding war going. You know, they paid £42 million. They're going to want at least 35 million for the player. That's where it could scupper things. So the suggestion of getting him on loan for another season, I think, would be a fantastic thing to do. I think it will be good for us to keep him at the club. I think it's done us the world of good. And if we do stay up, then he will be a pivot in our defence next season. Absolutely. What do I think will happen? I think Disasi, if given how the experience, he didn't have a happy experience at Villa. It didn't seem to work for him. It didn't seem to click. But he's having the experience. And under Nuno, I think all the players at West Ham, and I'm going to go back to this stat again and show you just where we're at in the last 10 games. If the season was 10 games in, we'd be pushing for a European place. A player like Disasi will see that and will say to himself, you know what? There's something happening at West Ham under Nuno. Why not become a part of it? Why not become a focal point of doing even better for West Ham next season? Of course, we've got to stay up. That's the first priority. But once we do, then I think Disasi will sign for West Ham, whether it be a loan with either an option or an obligation to buy or a straight out purchase. Given our financial predicament, you know, maybe it'll be a stretch to go for 35 million, but a loan, why not? If West Ham are clever, they should be dealing with that now and going to Chelsea and going to the player and saying to both of them, look, if we stay up, this is the deal we want to do. Let's agree it now. Let's agree it in advance so that we've got first rights on the player when the season is over. If we manage to stay up, then we want to make a huge chance. Lee's almost wrapped it up with the points. So it's a pretty open game. I think that's what will happen. I think that's West Ham, the board, are probably already onto it and saying to the player, if we stay up, do you want to stay? If the answer is yes, let's do a deal now. Let's get it in, let's get it in place and let's go to Chelsea. Let's speak to them, ask them if we stay up, can we do a deal and have him signed in the first day of the transfer window in the summertime. Get it done. Get it out of the way. Get it done. I feel if we stay up, I think he will stay. I think he absolutely will. I'm going to call him Zuma with knees. You remember when we signed Kurt Zuma? You know, we all knew he was a great defender, but his knees were gone. his knees were shot. So Disasi is a Kurt Zuma with good knees. I think he's better. I think he's probably become even better. Let's see. What else have we got here? Daniela, I have to say, I met Steve Perham at Paddington Station, had a chat. He was a perfect gentleman, and he has a lovely wife. Good, Gaza. If Leeds beat Chelsea in the semi-final and get to the final, it'll be a few days after playing Spurs. Not good. You see the swings and roundabouts. Everyone's, given, different things to consider. Can Chelsea sell players as they have a transfer ban next season? Fuck. I don't know is the answer to that. I think they may be able to sell them. I don't think they may be able to buy them. That's a really good question, Michael. Didn't think of that. I'm going to have to look into that. Hammers Football, Tony, good evening to you, mate. Thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. And as I mentioned, I'll reply to you in Twitter. We'll have a chat about getting something set up. Who else have we got here? Hammers Football again. Saying good evening to everyone. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got here? Randy again. Darren, I'd like to think there will be some cash available. I know we will need to sell players, fringe players, but we need to see. Dark Star, not joking, but Souček has been a great player for us this season, no matter what. I agree. I've never disagreed. I've always liked Thomas Souček, but because he doesn't have the Brazilian flair, he wasn't considered by some as being worthy of wearing the West Ham shirt. It's sad, really, because we've always loved our skill players, but we've also always loved a player who puts his plays with his heart and soul and gets his foot in there. And Souček has been superb since he's been brought back into the regular starting lineup. He's been absolutely fantastic for us, and another reason why we've improved. You look at the grafters we've got: Disasi, Mavropanos, Todibo. Who would have thought he'd be a grafter? But he's a grafter as well. He's got skill to go with it. Carl Walker-Peters is a grafter. Fernandez is a grafter. Souček is a grafter. Bowen is a grafter. Pablo is. We've got players that are going to get really stuck in. And I think that's what bodes well in terms of us staying up this season. Brendan, Toha, I'm starting a crowd surfing thingy for you so that you can go to all the remaining games after Friday's 4-0 win to Harry. John, Liverpool is sniffing around about, Liverpool are, Man United are. There'll be a whole queue of clubs looking out for Fernandez. But I really do think if we stay up, he will stay at West Ham United. Nuno can take us back into European football, Dark Star. God, wouldn't that be great? Better start saving up now. What's the score? Is it still 2-1? 82 minutes gone, still 2-1 in that game. Good result for Leeds if they win this. Good result indeed. Let's scroll down. John. Jared's form seems to be improving. A decent World Cup, and with Salah leaving, Liverpool wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And in all honesty, if Liverpool came in for him, or Newcastle, etc., I would say thank you very much for your service. Really, the best of luck, and hope you win things with the club that you go to. I really do. I do wish that, because I think we'll be able to use that. We'll get 35 million for Jared Bowen, maybe hopefully more, and we'll be able to invest that in younger players. Martin, Bowen is super player. Who do you think will buy him? He's getting on a bit. Liverpool, I don't think he'll actually go to Liverpool, but I can certainly see a club like Newcastle United coming in for him, and they'll have the money for it as well. Toha, the narrative did seem that Disasi did not want to come. We need to stay up, and we need to sign him. Trodge, I hope you're well, mate. I've got a contentious question. Go for it, mate. I'll be happy to try and answer it if I can. Has he got where is it? Maybe it's further down. Trod, you're going to have to write it out if you haven't already written it. James, Stel, is it legal then for the owners to inject money into the club without breaking the financial rules? There is scope, yes, because the whole thing about PSR is we were never sort of going to break PSR rules, even though we cash wise we haven't got a lot of money. We were never going to break PSR rules. So yes, they can inject money. I struggle with this FFP, whatever it is called, confused potato Riviera. I agree with you, it is confusing, but yes, they could inject money into the club. Does anyone else think Bowen shed a bit of timber and is looking half a yard sharper? Good point. Maybe he has. Yeah, maybe he stopped eating all his wife's good food. Who knows? Dark Star, Disasi may have had a good rapport with Todibo, but now he's kicked him out of the team. It's all right. I think professionals will understand that and will respect that. And going forward, I mean, everyone's saying going forward, it was going to be a Tadibo Disasi back two. But Mavros Dinos has had a lot to say about that. Michael, Chelsea slapped £40 million on him that hadn't had a game on a player that hadn't had a game for a whole year. Well, they won't get that. But maybe that then the hope is we get him on loan again. I think Bowen will see his career out with us, Harry. I don't know. It depends on where we're at the end of the season. Let's see. Tadibo look immense, but Disasi has become core. Isn't it great to have players that you can rely on the bench? There was a time when we were going, well, which one of our defenders is going to save us? Which one of our central defenders is going to save us? And Waymo sends in a cross. Passes from Bruno. It looks like Chelsea are getting a chance. Man United are pushing for an equaliser. Will we be happy for a draw? Oh, I don't know anymore. That'll just play itself out. Malster. Sullivan wanted Chalobah still, and he got himself back in the Chelsea fold, and that left us with Disasi, but I don't mind. Yeah, Chalobah. Well, I don't know if Sullivan wanted him, but there was an awful lot of talk about Chalobah, but we're happy with what we got now, aren't we? Frog. We spent 40 million on Kilman and asked him for. Now, Kilman, the show I did at the weekend about not booing your own was more about Max Kilman than it was about. I mean, I used it to demonstrate what Dinos did by taking the boos this time last season and turn them into something positive. Can Max Kilman do the same? Can he do the same? Can he come back from this? My understanding is, I don't know if this is true or not, that he is a West Ham fan. I didn't know that. I think someone mentioned it before, but maybe that skipped my mind. And also that he was turned down at the academy level, so he didn't make it through academy. I don't know if either of those things are true. But if that is true, half of me wants him to succeed. Half of me wants him to shake this off, come back and demonstrate that he's as good as. I don't know if that will happen. I think we'll probably sell him. We'll sell him for a huge loss as well. But I think the point I was getting at was about booing him. When he played in the game against Leeds, people booed him. And I hate that because Dinos was booed last season as well. And Dinos has come back from that. Now, people are suggesting that Dinos should be Hammer of the Year after he was booed, probably by the same fans, who are now suggesting he should be Hammer of the Year. Thank you, Hammers Football. If you're new to this channel, should have done this right at the start of the show. But of course, I get carried away and I completely forget. If you're new to the channel, first time you're watching the West Ham Boys, or if you've watched before, that QR code there will take you to the subscription page. You can hit that and you can become a subscriber of the channel free of charge. And also, as Hammers Football has suggested, hit the like button. And by the way, go on to, are you on Twitter, mate, or are you on YouTube as well? But look up Hammers Football TV, become a subscriber of that as well, and hit the like button if you're enjoying the show, and also hit the hype button because that allows you to promote. All you got to do is hit the hype button, and then that promotes the video for other people to watch on YouTube. Harry, Dinos winner against the Arse. That's the dream. Well, we did it last time. We did it last season. Scored in our 2-0 win against them. I bet we're going to get something from Arsenal. Darkstar, Kilman was a big mistake. Don't think we'll get 15. We'll get about 20 for him. He probably will go. There will be clubs coming in thinking that they could do something with him. Hammer, I've seen some Ars fans praising Mavs, not saying once a gunner. Oh, it's a gunner. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, they ripped him to shreds when he was gone. And then when we signed him, they were laughing at us for signing him. John, Tadibo is a very good player. We must try and keep him. Hopefully we will. Hopefully we will. Randy, Trudge depends as Kilman can still go to start again. Trudge, it depends. As Kilman can still go to a club that comes up next season, like a Coventry or an Ipswich if they get promoted, or to another team that plays through at the back. Yeah, I think there'll be clubs in for him. I don't think he'll be in the wilderness. I think the clubs will pay 20 million for him. They'll think there's a decent player there. I don't think even promoted teams will go for Kilman. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Mark, what they want and what they get are two different things. I think you're talking about Disasi and their £40 million. Leon, happy with that. It's a once a hammer, always a hammer. With Declan, Yeah, fair enough. Declan was there, wasn't he, for the game, the Leeds game, I think it was. Hornswaller, when we last played Leeds in the 2-2 draw, we fielded 5 changes. This tells me this team should be further up the table too. Absolutely. Look, that's the other thing. Let's not forget the defeat against Leeds in the FA Cup. There were quite a lot of changes. With a fully fit squad, I think most teams should be more afraid about playing us than we are afraid about playing them. Hammerette, feel sorry for Kilman. He's not good enough for us, and I don't think it will get much for him, if anything. We'll get 20 for him. Trodge, Kilman got mental issues, I think. Most of his problems is from panicking. Randy, HG and to Hammerette and Kilman needs a change. We're going to need to sell some fringe players to try and keep our better players if possible. Daniela, Sunderland have reported Spurs fans for racist abuse at Brian Brobbery. I wonder if they'll be fined or not. Wow. You know, it's still going on in this day and age. It's terrible. It's awful. Mark, Kilman, Fulkrug, Ward-Prowse, Cornet, Alvarez. What's that lot worth? Okay, 20, 25, 35, 40, 60. 60, 70 million, give or take, probably, I reckon. Forgot about Alvarez, another player who will go for half decent money. Kilman, 20 mil. Fulkrug, 5 mil, if we get that at all. Ward-Prowse, let's say 15. That's 40 mil. Cornet, 5. 45 mil. Alvarez, 20. There you go, 65 mil. David, only about 10 minutes left for Bruno Fernandes to fall over in the penalty area and level the tie from from the spot. So true. Oh, penalty to Man United. No, not really. Who else we got here? Stel, Daniela, the Chelsea transfer ban was suspended, so I think they'll be okay. There you go. See, I got confused there. I was wondering, yeah, it's suspended for a year, isn't it? That's it. Randy, Leon, I think Kilman needs a new club to be able to for a fresh change and go to a club that can play through at the back and will use him correctly. It's just not worked out for him. Yeah, it hasn't worked out for him, but no need to boo him. Michael, first time relegation is in our hands. Spurs need to be better than us by 2 points from 6 games. Can you see it happening? Not with their current form. Trodge, Cornet signed a 5-year deal plus 1 year option, and he's got the 1 year. He's got 1 year left after this season, and then the option will be on top of that. He'll be gone. He'll be gone at the end of the season. Michael, I think the owners are allowed to check. I can't remember the value, but I know they are allowed to inject some money. So injecting some money and getting some players on the transfer, on transfers as well, I think will be okay-ish. Randy, happy. I don't see Nuno wanting to keep Fulkrug. He definitely won't. So I will go to, and he will go to Cologne. I think that's where Stein is technical director. Yeah, mentioned that much earlier in the show. You're absolutely correct there, mates. Dark Star. We really needed Arsenal to have the league wrapped up by the time we played. I'm not. You know, the irony is of all the. I'm more concerned about the other teams than I am about Arsenal because a lot of people are expecting us not to get a win out of Arsenal, but I reckon we'll get something in that game. Let's see how it goes. Who else have we got here? Hammers Football. Leeds have conceded the most goals near the end of the game. 93. They're on 93 minutes now, but it's looking like it's going to be a Leeds, fantastic win for them. Fantastic win if they see this out. Stephen, do you think Kilman to go to Crystal Palace could sell him for the right price? I know there was talk about him going there. It's going to be interesting if that happens. Trodge, 5 years on his contract makes it hard for us to shift him. Who's got 5 years on his contract? Kilman, you're talking about? I don't know. We'll see. Right, that's it. Shall I just see out the rest of this game? What are we on? They got Gary Neville saying that's it. I think if Leeds were to get to win and go 6 points in front of the home fixtures they got left, it will give them a big chance. Yeah, so Leeds have got Wolves, Bournemouth, Burnley, Spurs, Brighton, and West Ham. We've got Wolves at home. They'll win that one, and that will make them safe. So at this moment in time, In the 93rd minute of the game, Leeds United are still beating Man United by 2-1. Michael, Arsenal will be our easiest game. It's bottle time of the year. You had to giggle, didn't you, when you saw them lose at the weekend? You had to giggle. Who else we got here? Randy again. No, as Glasner will leave next season unless Palace get another 3 at the back manager. Well, I think he'll go somewhere unless Nuno thinks he can get something out of him. 94th minute, Cunha is furious after he goes rolling over after a challenge from Ampadu, but the ref deemed it was fair, and on we play. Getting close. I'll see out the game and then I'll say goodbye to you all. Thank you, Daniela. Much appreciated. Frog, we all seem to fancy the Arsenal game pretty much. I fancy it. I do. It's been a difficult night for Man U. It's a bad one, but surely... is that it? Or is it still playing? Gary Neville says, it's been a difficult night for Man United. It's a bad one. 95 minutes, offside. Let off for Leeds, who somewhat fumbled a clearance behind, but the offside flag is up against Casemiro. Leeds goal kick. Interesting. Eltel, good evening, mate. How are you? Everton fan, West Ham stay up. Told you months ago. We're not there yet, Eltel, but thank you for having more faith in us than we had in ourselves. Randy, Tony, he tried to orchestrate his own exit by Palace's board. Won't let him go, so sees out the season, then goes to the Bundesliga, is my guess. You're talking about the manager of Crystal Palace. Randy, good evening to you, mates. Much appreciate it, and thank you very much, mate. Is it finished? Come on. Have you... Still not done yet. 95th minutes. Harry. Cheers, Del. Cheers, Tony. Both of you. Thank you. Much appreciated. And we're going to get Tony on. We're going to have a chin wag. I'll set that up very soon. It could be this Friday, but I'll let Tony know. Can we all? Thank you very much, Hammerette. Much appreciated. Thank you, Ryan. Much appreciated. And yeah, thank you for the 10K again. They're in 7 minutes. I don't know how much added time has been added on, but they're in 7 minutes added time now. 97. Fernandez over the free. Lamans is up. Fernandez over the free kick. Old Trafford. Is there a free kick? Oh, Lamans up. Fernandez over the free kick. Lamans up. Okay. He saved it. It looks like Fernandez sends it in, but it's a great punch from Darlow to see away danger. I'm getting more excited by this at the moment. Sweet FA. Arsenal and Newcastle are going to be tough. That's it. It's over. Leeds United have won 2-1. That's a massive, massive boost for them. Leeds United having won 2-1. Well done to them. Well done to Leeds United for winning that game. They were at it from the start. They were under pressure, but they've seen it out. Arsenal and Newcastle are going to be tough. We'll do... you know what? I don't know, Sweet FA. I've been to Newcastle where we've won. You know, sometimes we do pretty well up there. They're not having the best of times up at the moment. Let me go back to that chart. Where is it? I'll show you where Newcastle are in the last 10 games. Newcastle, if this was 10 games into the league season, they'd be third from bottom at this moment in time. So they're not doing that well at the moment. And look at where West Ham are. West Ham United, if this was 10 games into the league season, we'd be in 8th position. So we're playing better than them. So, Glenn, let's get rid of that. Leeds are out of contention for the drop now. 6 points clear with Wolves and Burnley at home and Spurs away. I think it's going to be between us and Spurs now. With Palace, Forest is still in there as well. Let's not forget, Glenn. But a fantastic win for Leeds. Fantastic win for Leeds United tonight. Okay, let's leave you on that. Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the channel, click on that QR code. You can become a subscriber of the channel. Thank you so much for all the best wishes about me getting the 10,000 subscriber mark. I'm really, really chuffed for that. Have a really, really great week, everyone. There'll be other shows coming up midweek, so do look out for them. In the meantime, have a good week. Let's see what happens this weekend in terms of the games that are coming up. Of course, we're going to be looking out for the Spurs-Brighton game. But in the meantime, have a great week, and I will see you all very soon.